Club. And we're excited to have you with us tonight because our book club, not only do we read the books, but you actually get to meet the authors as well. And I just love that. And we started out many years ago back in New York in the homes of women. And then we moved to a church, and then God moved me to Fort Wayne, Indiana. And now we are meeting at the chapel every month. And we're so gracious and happy that they are doing that for us. But this is my friend and author, Brenda Jank. And she is here with us tonight, and we are going to have so much fun. But I'm going to tell you, we've been emailing each other back for quite a while, and we met face to face 2 weeks ago. And when I was driving there, I'm going to tell you, to be honest with you, I was a little nervous. And after you explain what you do, people might understand a little bit better why I was nervous. So share with us a little bit about your ministry.
Okay. What a joy to be with everybody today. All right. Run hard, rest well is the theme of the ministry that I run. As Christian women, we know how to run hard. We do not know how to rest well.
So true.
And basically it all begins. God got a hold of my heart about 27 years ago.
And I needed this 27 years ago, by the way.
I know. I was working at a church in the Chicago area.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I was born and bred a type A. And so I came out of junior high tired and high school tired and college tired, landed at church in an urban setting. And it didn't take long for me to get spread too thin in a very serious way. And God has blessed me with a body that does not keep up with my dreams. Blessing number one. And I got very sick. And the Lord also blessed me with a group of people that were incredibly compassionate. And so they gave me 2 months off. I was running 101 fever nonstop, could not get out of bed. And they said, Brenda, go get well. During that time,
that was a huge blessing too, by the way.
Oh, because people don't always have that. No. They're critical, they're judgmental, or they boot you out because you're not carrying the load. So the gift of that and the ripple effect of what it does in the kingdom when we compassionately meet each other where we're at. So I took 2 months off. During that time, a very dear friend of mine gave me a book by Marva Dawn called Keeping the Sabbath Holy. Wow. WHOLLY. And I grew up in the church, and from about the time I was 12 and I read the book of Acts for the first time, I was captured by God's word. And the only thing I really learned about Sabbath keeping was go to a worship service and then go home with your family and eat pot roast. And if you did that, you were good to go. And so I was doing that. But this book shared a vision of what God had for us, that there really was a deep rest that could be ours. And I was captured by it. And so I became the most faithful, miserable Sabbath keeper the world has ever known. For me, it was a Monday or a Tuesday. And let me just stop you there. That's what people don't realize. It doesn't necessarily have to be on a Sunday. No. Run Hard, Rest Well is passionate about introducing the idea of rhythm. And as beautiful and as powerful as a 24-hour Sabbath is, that it's a journey to that. And so I encourage people, if you can carve out 60 minutes, 2 hours, start faithfully give that to the Lord and let him over time, because it has taken us decades to get into the mess we're in. Yes. It's not going to be a quick journey out. And so it's step by step.
Well, like I was saying, I was really nervous about coming because I'm really good at running hard. And I wasn't always good at resting well. And, I had 4 children and very busy life. And I think I got lost in the middle of all of that.
Yeah, we get swallowed alive.
We do.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, we're caregivers.
Or we think we're superwoman.
Yeah.
Yes. And that we can do it all.
We do. So I became this faithful, miserable Sabbath keeper. I would look forward all week long, going, there's this day reserved that I get to rest. But I would land on that day and it would be so emotionally messy. I lived to work. I loved to work. My value, who I was, my entire identity was wrapped up in work. And so it was this messy day. And then a year into this emotional, messy Sabbath keeping, our senior pastor at our church gave a staff mandate that we were to go away once a month on church time for personal retreat.
Well, you don't hear about that very often.
No, again, another gift. You know,
Yes.
God had his, I don't stop thanking him for those gifts. And so I jumped at it and I thought, I need this. I am so empty. I am so depleted. But then I panicked because the reality was at that time, I couldn't pray for 5 minutes. And I thought, what in the world would I do for 8 hours by myself? I kind of thought it had to be a prayer retreat. And I thought, I can't pray for 5 minutes. How am I supposed to pray for 8 hours? And I got the nifty idea of writing a whole bunch of Bible studies for a mission trip that was coming up with.
Wow, what a great idea.
And so I packed all this work. I was heading out the door and I ran into Jock, our senior pastor, and he said, Brenda, where are you going? And I said, on my first personal retreat.
And you're going to do all this?
Yes. And he looked at me, he said, no, you're not.
Good for him.
And I dropped it all. I went out to the retreat center and I can't even tell you exactly what happened that day. But I met Jesus in a new way, and I tasted rest. For women, especially for women, for some of us, our home can be our sanctuary and like this safe place. But for many women, it's not. It represents a place of a lot of work, possibly chaos and stress and tension, getting away. And it doesn't have to be a retreat center. It can be a coffee shop, a library, your backyard, a porch, a friend's porch. It's amazing with just stepping away from all the demands and all the distractions.
We love Mocha Lounge here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, because it's a great place to get all kinds of coffees and teas and just have some great conversation. So Mocha Lounge, that was free for you.
Okay.
When I was growing up, and I'm going to date myself here, Sunday was definitely a Sabbath. The malls were closed. We only had one mall where I lived in New York, upstate New York, and most of the stores were closed as well. So Sabbath looked very differently in those days than it is today. Today, I think we're so focused on, getting ahead, all these demands, doing this and doing that. And I realize we have to do a lot of that. But what I was saying was when I was driving to you for that half-day retreat, I was really nervous because I didn't know if I really wanted to learn more about resting because but that's the truth, we get so busy but I'm resting more in my life today than I ever have. So that's a plus for me. But really, when you start thinking about the fact that if we're not resting, we're not paying any attention to God, how is God speaking to us as women? And there's so many things that can captivate us with all the electronics, with television, and everybody I see has a phone in their hand, and I know I can be guilty of that at times myself. But, there's so much more. Oh, hold on a second. I see our screen that's okay. Our screen is off. There we go. Sorry about that. I'm just keeping tabs on our screen. It was probably I don't have it set so that it won't idle.
Okay.
What does the retreat really prepare us for?
The retreat, so much of our life with God we can spend a lot of time in our head. We're learning new things. Reinhard Reschwell is passionate about cultural change, lasting cultural change. And for that to happen, we have to connect with people. So the retreat, in many ways, what we do with people on retreat, the ideal would be a full day and possibly even an overnight. But as Reinhard Reschwell launched, we found out that more and more people were not willing
because they're so busy
to take a full day away on rest, but I could get them to take a half a day. And so it's a 4.5-hour experience. It is incredibly strategic. Every single moment, story, the process has been prayed over and really grown by many people, not just me, over many, many years. And so when people get away, they're going to explore. We're going to do brain science stuff. We're going to be out of our seats every 20 minutes.
And we were.
Yes, we're going to laugh. There's generally sometimes some tears. Small group. Sometimes people come with people that they know and love, but sometimes people come on their own. And we are passionate about small group. And the questions are designed so that they're not threatening and not scary, and yet it opens the doors for some deeper sharing.
I felt in our small group that I came by myself, but I felt like I was at home with the ladies that were in my group.
Yeah.
And it was such a blessing as you're going around just answering those questions, which are easy, not threatening questions, like you say. But I could have left with them as totally my friends, and I should have got their contact information.
We might need to work on that.
Yes, it would have been really nice to
Yeah.
have.
Okay, I'm going to take a note.
Okay. See, oh yes, that's a suggestion.
Yes,
There you go.
yes.
So what you had mentioned in our time together, Exodus 23:12 about rest.
Yes.
Do you want to share a little bit about that?
When, as a type A person, I developed a definition for rest to try to get my mind wrapped around it. And so it was talking about how rest is never convenient. It's never easy. It really is a delight and ultimately an act of obedience and devotion to what God wants for us. But I was so delighted to.
Sometimes that word obedience, is hard.
Hard, yes. Yes. For me, my journey, everyone's journey into rest is different.
Yes.
For some, it's inspiration.
I'm having difficulty here,
so
just keep going. Yes.
For some, it's inspiration. For some, it's revelation. For me, it really was conviction. When I woke up to the idea that there really was a command for rest, that God wove the idea of Sabbath rest into the very beginning of creation. And then on Mount Sinai, in the commandment, he added this great big exclamation point.
Yes.
And I was convicted by that. And so I went in kicking and screaming. It was years of Jacob wrestling. But as I tasted rest on retreat, a few hours off the beaten path, I tasted it. So I slowly was able to bring it back home. But anyway, so I was so excited to realize that God really had a definition of rest.
Yes.
And in Exodus 23, it's either verse 12 or 13. He says,
I have 12. So
12, okay, all right. He said 6 days rest, but on the seventh day, do what refreshes. And in our world, we all actually have free time. We have free time. But with our free time, what we choose often to do is to be entertained or amused. We self-medicate. We numb ourselves. We distract ourselves. And our Lord invites us to explore rhythms that will refresh us.
How wonderful is that?
Yes.
There was an hour in the retreat that really caught me off guard. There was this 1 hour, and share it with us, that hour, and what we actually do.
Yes, we have to taste rest. We have to experience it. And so we send, after exploring that idea of meeting with God in what we call stillness, we send everyone off for an hour. And I'm astounded again and again of how many people have rarely had an hour completely off the hook to do nothing. We invite people to leave their phones or to turn it off, enjoy the camera mode.
Yes.
And without really even material, we release folks into the quiet. And for some people that can almost be frightening, but by that point in the retreat, people they're ready to taste it. And we always do an evaluation. And again, the highlight for people is that hour off the beaten path. We will do our retreats everywhere and anywhere.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because people need to know what type of organizations, where you go with it, and it's so wonderful.
Oh, yes. Because we are passionate about groups of people, small group Bible studies, church families, staff. We recognize that to make change, we really have to create new social norms.
Yes.
And so we target groups of people who love each other and know each other, and we give them a shared vision of a biblical transformative view of rest, rhythm, and the work of God in our lives and through our lives.
Yes.
But the retreat also works for individuals. And so most of what we do are custom retreats. I go into church staff, into nonprofit staff. We go into doctors' offices. And, we to be honest, if I can be really honest, we initially thought that our biggest group would be churches and church staff. Our biggest group that we minister to right now are nonprofit ministry staff. And second on the gamut are actually businesses, mental health groups, mental facilities and teachers.
Wow.
People taste the rest and they go, Brenda, can you bring this back to my group in a way that is that we call faith sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is still a biblical blueprint, a transformative blueprint of rest, but we do it in a way that works. My story of how Jesus works at me is still my story, so I share that. And we have a prayer team that just surrounds every group. We have a prayer team right now praying for us in this time,
Wow.
made up of women all over the country, actually. So we mostly do custom retreats, but every fall and spring we do what we call community events, and so everyone is welcome. So we have individuals like when you came, Joe, a couple weeks ago. We have small staff. We had a Parkview Community Foundation. Their 5 folks came. We had missionaries come. We had some couples come. So those community events help people come explore it personally or to bring it back to their group.
Well, we'll say this a few times, but tell people how they can connect with you.
Okay. All right. A number of ways. The website is runhardrestwell.com. To email me, it's Brenda@runhardrestwell. And you sure are welcome to call me. The phone number is on every page of the website. And I have a kiddo who is with me a lot, and sometimes he answers the phone. And he usually does a pretty polite job, but you might be surprised with the young man.
Why don't you share a little bit about your personal life?
Okay.
We would really love to hear that.
All right. Part of the unique, distinctive of Run Hard, Rest Well in the arena of wellness. Most wellness focuses in on really the symptoms of our overload and exhaustion. And it kind of helps us look at our bad habits and our poor choices in terms of food and fitness and how that's impacting us medically. Run Hard, Rest Well is passionate about what we call restorative wellness. And that comes from Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall lack nothing. And that includes time and energy. I take God's word on that. And it's become critical in my life.
So how many times have I said that prayer in so many times in my life, and it never really hit me in the way that you're talking about?
Right. It has been transformational to me. It really has. And the Lord knew that I needed, He prepared me 27 years ago. So this journey for me started when I was single, moved into married life. And then we have a total of 5 children. 3 came home through the miracle of adoption. And actually, I have pictures. Does someone want to grab pictures? We could show everybody.
Yes. We want to get those pictures.
Delightful crew. So we have 5 kids came home in a span of 6.5 years.
Wow.
And God knew.
You sound like me.
That to do life with any margin of sanity with this crew, that rhythms of rest were going to have to be a part of my life and my journey. So anyway, my husband Tim and I, we knew before we got married that we wanted to adopt special needs kids. And so in our lifetime, we said yes to a child with sickle cell anemia, and we said yes to a child with mild cerebral palsy. We did not get a child with mild cerebral palsy, but we got a child with sickle cell anemia, with Asperger's, with stroke disorder, severe attachment disorder, spina bifida, hydrocephalus, and fetal alcohol syndrome. And I share that because this message today is the real deal. If God had not gotten a hold of my heart, I wouldn't be here. I've spent more than 320 nights in the hospital with our kids. But to a degree, that part was actually easy because it was usually 3 hours from home, which offered lots of challenges, but I only had to focus on one kid there. The daily life with a child with Asperger's, with a child with severe attachment disorder, and a child with fetal alcohol, it's a war zone. It's a battleground. And anyway, these are my miracles.
Yes, you don't want to see us. Right? Yes, get them up there.
This is the crew, and
thank you.
And they are miracles.
So tell us their names.
All right. Whoops. Oh, if I can do this.
Yeah, you can.
This is Joshua. He's our oldest. And Josh, well, I'll show you in a minute. So Josh is our oldest, and then Mr. Samuel, and then Joseph, and then Anna. So Anna has 4 brothers. And do you know what? There's going to be a special place in heaven of moms of 4 boys.
Yes,
and
I
it's
agree.
going to be a couch. I have a couch with a name on it. And then this is Noah. And my baby, Noah, here they all are now. He actually turned 18 on Monday.
Wow.
And I have had the privilege of walking with this group, this amazing group, with an amazing husband. We have basically done life nonstop in chaos and crisis mode.
You sure have.
About, I don't know how many, we are learning to do life. We've been married 27 years. So I guess my journey started 28 years ago. I always have to redo the numbers. But anyway, it doesn't stop. They're all big now. And
Yes, it never ends.
And
Yes.
I used to say I used to be a professional wiper of chins, high chairs, and bottoms.
Yes,
and,
I understand that.
And now, yes, now I think I would take the potty training over driver's ed. But we are done. We're done with driver's ed.
You know, I have to tell you that I know that only God could be getting you through what you and your husband have gone through with the children. Because I have a brother who just came to live with us almost 2 years ago that has autism. And it has been one of the most challenging things that I have ever dealt with in my whole life. And I have gone through a lot in my life, like everybody has. But to work with someone who is 66, who has never had anybody look to help him in his entire life, is a huge challenge. And so, but that's one person. To have 5 children and to do all that you have done, you know, you're a very special woman, by the way. You may not say that, but let me tell you something, honey. You are a very special woman. You and your husband.
I think God did that. There were many years, the number of tears that fell every day. And he knew what he was doing, because I think if I can rest, it gives people a vision that they can taste it, that it is possible.
And even when you're resting, or even when you were doing the retreat, you kept your phone on, right?
Yes, I did.
Yes,
I did.
and it was for a very important reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is my Josh. And Josh is our oldest. He's 24. And Josh came home to us with sickle cell anemia. He was born with that. And Josh had a stroke when he was 5. And he has received 400 blood transfusions in his lifetime.
Oh my God.
And if you're a blood donor, thank you. It really is the gift of life. It kept him from having any more strokes. And he had a vibrant, healthy childhood. Josh got diagnosed with Asperger's, which would be on the milder end of the autism spectrum now, when he was 10. And he really was classic Asperger's. And anyway, Josh became after being so healthy, he became a medical mystery when he was about 18. And being a medical mystery is not a fun place.
No.
And there are so many people who fight. And you have to fight for your life. And anyway, during that year, he spent about 90 nights. We spent about 90 nights in the hospital. And
so that's bringing you away from your family as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's kept him for a dad to work full time and come home and coordinate for 4 kids. Often the kids we homeschooled for a while. We almost always had someone home because they were in such crisis of some kind. And we usually had kids in 3 different school districts to try to meet their needs. So the sheer trying to transport but we finally got a diagnosis. And Josh has a rare liver disease called hepatopulmonary syndrome. And his toxins from his liver are destroying his lungs. And so 5.5 years ago, the doctor told us that he thought Josh had about 2 years to live. And we weren't ready to tell Josh that at that point.
And how old was he at the time?
He was 18.
Okay.
And, he was 19. So he was 18 when he got sick. He was 19. And that summer, everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong. So in May, we found out about his diagnosis. In August, he ended up in the hospital again, and he was declining so rapidly, they moved him in the hospital to palliative care. We came home, he was in palliative care for 3 days at home, and they moved him into hospice care for 2 days. And then we were at hospice house. And they're trying to convince us that we were just going to get on top of his pain, some pain management. But while we were there, he was crashing so rapidly that the nurses at 5 one morning said, whoever needs to say goodbye to Josh needs to come now. And so called home, and Tim packed up everybody and came to Fort Wayne. And anyway, we started an adventure like nothing else. That was 5.5 years ago. And
God had another plan.
7 different times we have been saying goodbye to Josh. And 7 different times he comes back. Josh is a walking miracle, is what they call him, with visiting nurse and our hospice team, and have fallen in love with all those folks. No, I realized, can someone grab some red diamonds?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Josh is on a mission, and it all started at the hospice house. A real dear friend brought some beautiful glass red hearts, and Josh was in and out of consciousness. And so she shared with him, Josh, as you meet people, you can share a heart with them and tell them that you love them. And then if Josh, we could not rouse him, we could give them a heart and say, this is from Josh. Well, we ran out of ran out of hearts. And Josh loved, when he was awake, he loved giving away the hearts. And so he said, Mom, we have to get more. And I said, we'll try to see if we can find some. And it was very hard. I was basically almost in bed, not only in the room, but in bed with him curled up. But Noah and Noah was 12, and we ran off to Hobby Lobby to find something. And he said, if you can't find hearts, find something that's red, because he loved the fact that it was red. And so we brought back a sales clerk, and I walked the aisles crying, looking for red things, because I really wanted him to pick. But when I saw the diamonds, he is such a scientific kiddo. He is brilliant in so many ways. And anyway, so if you can, okay, there we go, perfect. And so when he saw the diamonds, he was like, Mom, I can share diamonds. And first it was just all family and friends. And then he was like, can I give one to one of my nurses? And I'm like, sure. And before long, all 14, there were 14 people at hospice. The bed that was full. All the families, all the patients, all the staff, all the volunteers had red diamonds. And so Josh, when he shares a diamond with someone, he says it's red because love makes a difference. And it's a diamond because God does amazing things under heat and pressure. And after a while, he added, can I give you some more? Because I bet you know someone going through a hard time. And you can join the team and pass them on.
And then tonight, everybody's going to get some.
We're going to get some. Josh's dream was 100,000. And after this many years, we're at about 750,000 red diamonds. We have absolute miracle stories from all 50 states and 28 countries. And
I'm just dealing with my microphone again. I got it backwards, I think.
So, that is the journey that we're on, and because of rest.
I just want to say hi to Lisa, Bethany, and Roberta. We see that you're on. I wanted to say hi.
Hi there.
And thank you for joining us.
Mm,
Share, one of the things I loved about the retreat was you shared some stories about your children.
yes.
So I asked you to share some of those.
All
Yes.
right. I've got two from Anna that I'd like to share. And they're both when she was like about 7 years old. Anna, she came up to me one day and she said, "Mom, am I going to have to use the word hurry when I'm a mommy someday?" And I said, "How come, sweetie?" And she said, "Because I don't like how you act when you use that word. Hurry up, brush your teeth, get your shoes on, get in the car, we're running late." We were always hurry, in our 24/7 on go, go, go world, we live in a constant state of hurry. And hurry is not conducive to family life in any way. Sabbath, there's 4 rhythms that Run Hard, Rest Well helps people explore. And Sabbath, well, there's 4 needs for rest. We have a physical need for rest. We have a spiritual and an emotional and a relational.
That was going to be one of my questions.
Oh, was it?
So I'm really glad you're bringing it up.
All right. So Sabbath keeping is actually relational rest.
Yes.
It is time off, a time set apart in a special way to reconnect relationally with God and reconnect relationally with the people who are closest to us, who we often are just zooming through
by
life. So Sabbath is this invitation to take our foot off the accelerator and to coast.
Coast, huh?
Yes, and maybe even come to a standstill. So rhythm, should we talk about?
Yes, let's talk about rhythm.
Okay,
yes.
so there's 4 rhythms. So there's a Sabbath rest. There's a physical rest. I often ask people when I start a retreat, I always say, raise your hand if it in any way, in any form, you felt tired in this last week. And everybody laughs.
Hello.
And everybody, one hand,
Yes.
2 hand goes in the air.
Yes.
And anyway.
And we even laughed when we did it.
Yes. Yes, we are universally tired. And it's almost become a badge of honor. It is a social norm that is toxic and destructive. It is unraveling everything we hold dear. And so there are so many wonderful wellness programs out there that talk about physical rest of exercise and food. And what Run Hard, Rest Well focuses in on is sleep.
That's my area. Lack thereof, I should say.
Yes. I've been a chronic insomniac since I was a little girl. And the level of pride that I had as a young mom with all these kids running around in diapers, that look what I can do on 4 hours of sleep. There is a price when we choose not to live in rhythm by God's design. There's a price that we're going to pay. And I have had part of my thyroid removed. Of the 4 rhythms, sleep was my last rhythm to take hold of my life. And part of it, I was passionate. I wanted to sleep, but I had so much working against me. I had many medical conditions. I took Ambien for 10 years, and that would give me 5 hours of sleep.
I so get this. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it stopped working. And so anyway, with sleep, we're just passionate about it. We sleep coach people. Science tells us that adults need a minimum of 7 hours. And if you are not getting 7 hours, you are taking years off your life. For some people, it creates relational irritability, mental health issues, physical ailments, or years off of our life. Child Protective Services, or DCFS, they did a study on parents who were at high risk for losing their children to foster care.
Yes, you were sharing this. This was amazing.
And they broke the group of parents up into 2 groups. In one group of parents, they did child development and anger management and worked on skills like that. The other group, they brought in sleep specialists, and they worked on the parents' sleep. 2 years later, they went back to poll that group, and you can guess which group had lost fewer of their children to foster care. It was the sleep group.
Yes.
Sleep is critical. When we do not get enough sleep, our ability to have the capacity to handle the constant disruption, it's so easy for anger and irritability and impatience to take root, and that creates divisiveness in families.
I know for myself, I consciously have to tell myself, okay, you're done and you need to go to bed. And even that takes me a while, but I definitely know that I have to get more sleep in my life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you mind if I read, you were talking about this and I wanted to read this.
Okay.
God's pace for my race. There used to be a natural, healthy rhythm built into the fabric of society. Prior to the 1897 invention of the light bulb, sleep was protected. We used to get 2.5 more hours each night. Prior to 1960s U.S. economic honored Sabbath rest, that's what I was talking about because that was my time frame, rhythm was protected. Prior to 1980s, children's activities were confined to afternoons, evenings were protected. And prior to 2000, people weren't accessible 24/7. Sanity was protected. And in today's world, I think we really are 24/7. You can connect with anybody. I found those statistics amazing.
And that's what Run Hard, we're just passionate about reintroducing rhythm to people. If we buy the ways of the world, that the church at one point taught about rest and Sabbath rest. The Puritan work ethic made America great.
Yes.
We are hard workers. But back, a number of decades ago, and 100 years ago, the Puritan work ethic, Sabbath rest was a part of it. And it might have been a little more legalistic than I feel comfortable with, but there was still a rest. Nowadays, on this 24/7 on, there's no rhythm. And what is so damaging about no rhythm is that when we are go, 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 our adrenal glands are pumping out a hormone called cortisol.
Yes, you were talking about this. Yes.
And cortisol damages every single organ in the human body. And it plays such havoc with our hormonal system and with the chemicals that wash over our brain. So it's not stress that it's killing us. We all need stress. We need challenges.
Some healthy stress.
Yes, we all need. But God designed the cells of our body to handle when cortisol is released from our adrenal glands, when we have a challenge in front of us, it makes us more effective and more ready to go. But if that the cell needs to have a break from cortisol, we need to move out of the stress and have some downtime. And if we don't, if it's a constant go, 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 it damages us at a cellular level.
Wow.
So it's not that we're not people of great capacity. It is by God's design that we need rhythm. We need rhythm.
I wrote this down so I didn't want to forget it, but we did an assessment at the retreat.
Yes.
My score indicated that I was running on the fumes of an empty tank, whether you realize it or not. That really hit me. I was like, wow.
Yes. It's a simple assessment. You can actually take it on the website. If you visit the website, runhardrestwell.com, there's a tab on the top that says resources. And if you go there, there's a book, but there's also the inventory that you can take online. And it's all of, 6 questions? Yeah, 6 questions. It's the simplest, shortest, and it will impact you more than most surveys.
Why don't you show your book and talk about that, and then we'll take some questions.
All right. This is the book. It's called Vantage Point, a new view of work, of rest, rhythm, and the work of God. Run Hard, Rest Well really is passionate about work. There are a lot of ministries out there that they focus more on the rest, just the rest part. I want us to be well rested. Run Hard, Rest Well at the core is really a great commission ministry.
It is.
Because programs don't bring people to Jesus. People bring people to Jesus. But we are so overloaded and so exhausted that we don't have time to invest in people.
Yes.
It's easier to go to an hour program at church and than to invest in a person's life, because people are unpredictable and messy and life is hard.
Sure.
So that's at the core. The book, this was written with the intent to be a follow-up to the retreat. And so everyone who comes to the retreat gets the Vantage Point book.
Yes.
Because we are passionate about lasting change.
And we're giving one away tonight, too.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. And so it's made up of 24 very short, powerful, meaty chapters.
Mm-hmm.
Everything Run Hard, Rest Well does is short and sweet because we don't have time. We do not want to waste people's time.
Yep.
So 24 short chapters, but it's also divided up into 6 sections. The power of community and sharing our stories.
Mm-hmm.
And so we invite people to read each section, which is 4 short chapters, and then gather with people who are important to them to talk through.
Okay, and how can people get your book?
All right. So it was designed to be a follow-up for the retreat, but we do send it all over the country.
Okay.
We ship them for they're used as small groups material. So you can visit the website, and if you order 1 or 2 books, we encourage you to just use the Amazon link,
Mm-hmm.
and it's associated with Prime, so it can be shipped for free.
Yes, I like that.
And if you go with 3 or more books, there's a button that you can contact us,
Mm-hmm.
and we can ship it to you directly.
And you ship very quickly.
Okay. Good. Yeah. The Lord has blessed Run Hard, Rest Well. You know, it for so many years, before we were an official 501c nonprofit, it was me, and now it is we.
Yes.
And God has blessed us with the most incredible group of presenters and authors and team people who are making this happen. And I am on my knees.
I love that.
In gratitude.
Does anybody, we'll look for in-house here in the audience. Does anybody have a question? Somebody's got to have a question.
You said Sabbath rest and physical rest. What were the other 2?
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 4 rhythms. The relational rest is Sabbath rest. Physical rest is sleep. Jesus was the poster child of the
Yes.
other
Oh my
2.
gosh. When I read that, I was like, oh yes, he was.
Of the other 2 rhythms of rest.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus was passionate about personal prayer
Mm-hmm.
and personal retreat. He was always slipping away with his Father.
What an example he set for us. And lots of times we just forget about that.
We just
Mm.
and so we help people explore stillness. And I have been a person who's been passionate about reading the Word for since I was 12, but it still could be so often in my head. I loved learning new things.
Mm-hmm.
As Run Hard, Rest Well grew and developed, I recognized the power of stillness. And so as I enter my quiet time, it is amazing what pausing. And I love this, Jesus speaking in Revelations 3. He said, I stand at the door and I knock.
Mm.
Every single day, I have to share a story. That's part of my morning quiet time is, Lord, I'm ready to hear your knock. And I'm going to, open that door, and we're going to sit down together. It's so relational. Our son, Joseph, when he was about 5, we were in an Awanas program, and he was not able yet to read, but he would bring his Bible to Awana class. And one night, the light bulb went on for him that this is God's word. And we got in the house, and he grabbed Tim's hand, my husband's hand, and he pulled him over to the rocking chair where we always read with the kids. And he said, Daddy, you have to start reading this book to me right now. Like we had never read it to him before. It was, you got to start right now. And I want you to start at the very beginning, because I don't want to miss anything.
Oh my gosh, if we should
say.
have that. We should have that in our hearts, to not want to miss a thing that God has to say.
You know, and there's fabulous reading programs that we want to know the entire word, but more and more in my life, I read shorter sections.
Mm-hmm.
And when the Spirit is tugging at my heart, I make myself stop there and soak in that. What is that for me today? That word of hope, that verse that I need for my relationships, for my fears, for my anxieties, my exhaustion. What does he have for me? So that's stillness. And then solitude. So there's 4 S words: Sabbath, sleep, stillness, and solitude.
Everybody's writing that down. So if you've missed something, let us know.
And so solitude is that slipping away. And I so encourage people that it doesn't have to be a retreat center.
Right.
It doesn't have to be all day. It's amazing what I call the power of an hour, of setting aside an hour. And it can even be 5 minutes. Another favorite story of mine is a group of psychologists took a group of clinically depressed people. And clinical depression is suffocating. It is a level of despair that is
I
overwhelming.
know, because I have been there.
Yes, it is. All of the people in the study were on medication, and they were all in counseling. And the psychologists wanted to see the impact of being outside in what they called the green zone.
Sure.
So 8 weeks, the group was, they needed to be outside, not walking, but just sitting and taking in the glories of the world around them. And at the end of 8 weeks, every single person in the treatment group, their wellness score went up. They were doing better. There was a group of people that actually moved out of clinical depression, and the psychologists were astounded. And they approached that group and they said, okay, we know you were outside for 5 minutes every day. Can you tell us where you were? And they said, they all reported that they were by water, a stream, a pond, a lake. And I laughed out loud when I read that research. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. It's fall right now. The leaves are
Beautiful.
gorgeous, and it's getting chillier. But if you can bundle up, set your timer, and whether you're standing under the sky at night with stars or during the day, take in, it's amazing what 5 minutes a day. So our solitude, our personal retreat can be 5 minutes of sitting outside.
I know that in the wintertime for myself, I have to be very careful, because when you're in a lot, sometimes I am, because I can work at home, it can be a little depressing. So I have to make sure, because of my past, where I come from and what has happened in my life, that I have to monitor very carefully, making sure that I get out, that I do certain things, because I can become isolated. I don't know if anybody else does that, but I certainly do. But it is, first of all, I think recognizing that you need help. Recognizing it is the first step, and then finding somebody that you can talk to. Yes. Anybody have any other questions? Yes.
Can you do presentations to like YMCAs?
Yes.
Yes, it's on your list. So
Yes.
repeat that if you could.
Yes, we do presentations for all kinds of groups, and we actually have great hopes and connections with the YMCA. So yes, we do 1 hour, we do 20 minutes, whatever time frame any group will give us. The group of presenters that I work with will go in and share. One of our presenters is doing a lot of work with some mission agencies. And after his work this year, the book, Vantage Point, is being translated into Arabic, was our first request, and now Spanish. And so
it's just the beginning.
I think so.
Yes.
I really do. There is something uniquely powerful, and it is not, it is a work of God that is beyond anything in my life.
And it just reminds me that sometimes, God gives us something and it just doesn't happen, in a short span of time. Some things can, but when God really breathes into a desire into you, it's been a long time.
It's been the dream that there was something more to this was very much beating in my heart 18 and 20 years ago. And 16 years ago, I thought for sure I was ready to have a book published. And that was just, I simply wanted to publish a book. I had no idea that God had something so much bigger. And our passion, we see ourselves not as just a ministry and a brand, where we consider ourselves a movement.
Yes.
We want to give this away because the church, God's kingdom work needs this message. We need to be fueled. We need to be healed. and until we take our rest and rhythm seriously, it's transformational. And so for anyone that wants to partner and come alongside to be a catalyst to groups that you're passionate about, who are doing cutting edge ministry work, to women, to caregivers, to moms, to CEOs. And it's funny, we are actually, the retreat is the same, whether I'm speaking to a group of CEO executives or a group of people experiencing homelessness.
Wow.
It's the same retreat. It is. And the power and the change stories.
I love the fact that you would go from a CEO to a homeless person.
Yes, I love it.
Yes, I absolutely love that.
It is remarkable.
Before we close, I wanted you to talk about RIP.
Okay.
Because I saw that and I was like, oh, I want to talk about that.
We every 2 weeks we post a blog, and it's usually short and sweet. It's usually less than 400 words and often less than 200 words. And we sometimes take stories that have been published before. So we are familiar with rest in peace. And in our culture, rest is almost a word of shame. Rest is reserved. We put the elderly and the decrepit in rest homes. And when someone dies, we say rest in peace. And this was a season where we were very thick into our hospice days with Josh. I had a son, Joseph, who was coming off of 3 months in the hospital. So we've had Josh up here in our home in hospice. And I've had a kid for 3 months in ICU and multiple surgeries in Indianapolis at the same time. And my dad was dying. During that time, we actually had a terrible flood in our house. Our upstairs bathroom flooded through the night. And since it was upstairs, it destroyed the upstairs. It went down the walls and destroyed the downstairs. I had an opportunity to get away on retreat, and I was overdue. And Pokagon State Park is a favorite place of mine. And I had to fight guilt. Josh was not. We were in the earlier days, and it was. I had to fight a lot of fear leaving him. But a dear, dear friend came alongside and said, "Brenda, slip away." And I knew where I needed to go, and I knew what I needed to do. And in that time, Jesus met me, and he said, "Brenda, I want you to trade RIP, rest in peace, for rest now in my peace." And that gift was mine that day. And I left there, refueled, recharged. Most days I call manna morning. God, I live constantly. So often, life is so hard in a given day, and usually there were multiple not good things not far away, and I had to stay in the day, the moment.
In the moment.
Because if I moved to worrying about that test and that surgery and how am I going to go to see my dad, it would overwhelm me. And so my theme in life would be, I don't need to worry about that thing, whether it's a day away or a week away, because Jesus might come back between now and then. And why should I waste a perfectly good day and he promises to give us what we need for the day. But we cannot borrow tomorrow's trouble. And
Amen to
so
that.
manna morning every day.
As you're talking, I was just kind of thinking along the lines that I think that God has a great sense of humor, because with all that you have on your plate and have had for so long, that God would give you the ideas to rest and to tell us all about it as well.
Right.
Because we all need it.
Right. Yes. And that this nonprofit launched a year after Josh was in hospice.
Wow.
It was the gift money, the seed money to landed in our hearts, and it didn't make sense. And to be real honest, everything was gearing up for a launch, and my dad had just died. We had just come off of this flood, and the boys, and there was nothing left. And I was like, I cannot start a ministry in this depleted place. And except for that trip to Pokagon of leaving Josh, I knew Tim and I needed a very intensive getaway. The grief was enormous, and that year we had been together so little. We had never been in a car together on a single occasion.
Oh.
And we flew across the country to it's called Shepherd's Canyon, to a very special, intensive ministry. And God knew what I needed. This is the real deal. I live what I preach, and I am.
That's what I love about you.
Transformation requires transparency, and we have to be real that we're not okay. And sometimes it takes a while to find the safe people, to be real, to let down. But that is so my prayer, and what we try with the retreats. I share pretty deeply of what overload and exhaustion looks like in my life, and it can be very ugly. And
well, let me just tell you this, that for about a few weeks before I attended your retreat, there was something on my mind that I wondered if it was God. Sometimes, he'll give you something, and sometimes I just wait to make sure that it is. And when I left the retreat, I knew without a doubt that God was speaking to me. It was so clear to do one thing in my life, and I'm so grateful for that. But it took me time to rest.
Yes.
To figure that out. Yes.
The treasures in quiet. There's a little saying about a chrysalis or a cocoon, that great things happen in quiet places.
Yes.
And miraculous transformational things happen in quiet.
I have been so blessed, and I know everybody else has, by tonight sharing your love of what God has given you and your family and some of the things that have happened with them. I am just blown away by all that has happened in your life, and that you're still going. You're still going.
I'm going.
Yes.
I'm going stronger than
But I love it, because only with God can all those things happen. And so praise God for all of that. And I know that you're just, I think you're just starting. I think that all the years you've been working on this, that God has a plan, and that, it's just the beginning of what's about to happen. So I encourage you all, continue to pray for Brenda and her family. Go to her website, runhardrestwell, is it .com?
.com.
Hook up with Brenda. Even if you're praying for her, let her know. Anything else you want to say before we close?
Okay. We do have some community retreats coming up. So in February, on February 8th, and it's a Friday, from 12:30 to 5 at the Community Grief Center, which is not far from here. It's part of Visiting Nurse. It's on the corner of Homestead and Liberty Mills.
That's very close.
12:30 to 5. So if you visit the website, look for the word Vantage Point. We call the retreat arm of our ministry is called Vantage Point.
Vantage Point.
And so on the front page, look for Vantage Point, click on that, and it will give you the dates and the information. There's scholarships. Don't let finances stand in the way. One of our core values is generosity and letting God do his work. And so don't let that stand in the way. We also have 2 retreats. Well, so the 8th is what we call faith focused. It's designed for people who love Jesus. On February 7th, on Thursday, is a faith sensitive. So if you have a group of people that you want to bring from your business, have them come check out that day. And then in May, 5th, 7th, and 9th at Camp Luther Haven, where my husband is the executive director, we do some retreats up there, and it's beautiful inside space and it's beautiful outside space. It's hilly and woods and lakes, and May is a beautiful
Can you
time.
grab me a couple copies of each of your books? I want to just share we have a couple of authors in the audience, and they're coming up next
And
month.
what's the incredible gift that they're coming and sharing is these are two of the people that God has brought into Renard Rest Well, and have shared their gifts and passions in such beautiful ways. So it's a joy.
Hey, Molly, there's a box over there with Reclaiming Eve. Can you bring one over? Peggy Sue Wells is not only just an author, but another good friend of our book club and individually. Come on over. Let me take these books. Peggy Sue is going to be with us next month, and her book is Homeless for the Holidays. You can get it on Amazon. We will have copies next month as well. Is there another? Let me just move this right over here.
Yes.
Peggy Sue, you might as well just jump right in. So this is Peggy Sue Wells. So why don't you just share a little bit?
In here.
Yeah.
I actually had a question for Brenda.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Brenda, if I've taken the assessment and I've listened to you talk tonight, and I'm like Joe. I'm like, oh, I'm running on empty. I'm on fumes. But it's a lot to change. What is the one step that I could do today that would move me forward?
That's
gonna move this
one
back.
thing that we are always telling people is that one step. And realistically, there's no cookie cutter. So there's not one thing that I can share with you, but what I can share with you is where are you most depleted? Are you physically, are you just so drained and exhausted? Get to the doctor if you cannot get 7 hours of sleep. Give me a call. I sleep coach people. Take a nap. Sometimes the holiest thing we can do is take a nap.
I did that yesterday, by the way.
Yes. For some of us, we need face-to-face time with Jesus. And so whether it's 15 minutes in the morning or 10 minutes at the end, this weather is gorgeous. Go outside for 5 minutes. Pick a personal retreat time, and maybe pick a beautiful place like Pokagon State Park. Invite a friend. Because if you do choose to go away or take a larger block of time, everything that can possibly go wrong will go wrong, because Satan doesn't want you to get away for a personal retreat. But if you invite a friend, there's a better chance that you might get away. For some of us, there's just such an isolation and a loneliness. And so sometimes the thing that we need most is to call a friend and say, I need a meal. I need some getaway time. So we have to assess
That is so out of character for me.
We need to become self-aware.
Yes.
To find out where. So my word of encouragement for folks is either pick that area that you are most efficient, that you feel the most, and do one thing this week.
Mm-hmm.
Or if there's an area that, boy, I have no trouble falling asleep, and I sleep good, but I just don't go to bed. Give yourself a bedtime. Maybe it's an area that you just need to tweak it and let it become something that's stronger to carry you. So those are my words.
Thank you. And I'm going to flip this back around so we can get Peggy Sue in. And
I just want to say, taught me how to live more and richer, and I'm very, very grateful. So thank you. Learned a lot from this woman.
okay, so let's talk about you next month and your book.
Yeah, we're going to talk about 2 books. We're going to talk about this Christmas novella, Homeless for the Holidays, and that's available right now on Amazon. And again, just right in time for the holidays, which I love that we were able to make that happen. And then the other book that's coming out in November 16th, and that's called Chasing Sunrise, and it's a full-length 90,000-word novel, and it's a thriller about special forces and happens on the tropical islands, and there's international comes in bulldozers and classical music and some art and a little bit of everything.
So they can get this on Amazon?
That one on Amazon.
Okay,
and
then
also Chasing Sunrise will be available November 16th on Amazon as well.
So now she'll be with us next month live. So make sure you get your copies.
As opposed to not live.
I always say live, and people say, why, they're dead? She's going to be with us in person, okay? That's probably a better way to say it.
I talk better when I'm live.
Yes, me too. Me too. Thank you so
And then
much.
Suzanne.
Now we have somebody else with us tonight. Oops, I just messed up my screen. See, we're full of authors tonight. This is a great friend, Suzanne Burton, and we met really through Peggy Sue.
We did.
Yes.
And Peggy Sue and Brenda and I all know each other.
I know. So listen, we're just a big
So-
family here tonight.
It is. It's great.
Now you're going to be.
And then there will be some snow on the ground.
I know. Oh my goodness.
And we're just going to need to make the effort to get out because it's
Yes.
important for us to get together. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk about your book.
yeah. So this book was published, I think, about 4 years ago. And I wrote it with two friends of mine. And the book talks about the identity and calling of women in the kingdom of God and the importance of calling women forward alongside their brothers
Mhm.
to do God's work in his kingdom and in the world. Today, obviously in the last in the media
Sure.
about bringing women forward and their stories. And we want to talk about that from a kingdom-centered
We sure do.
perspective and to unleash women to be set forth to do what God has called them to do in the world.
That sounds great. All this great stuff is coming up. And I want to tell everyone that today I scheduled my last author for next year. We are booked up to December already of 2019. So we'll already be booking into 2020. So I'm so excited to, God has just put in our path so many wonderful individuals. In April, we're going to have our first male here, author. To make sure I touch base with everybody. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming tonight. We have been so blessed by hearing Brenda. And please, like we said, please keep her in prayer and her family and ministry. Go to her website, runhardrestwell.com, and hook up with her. I'm telling you that your life will absolutely be changed. Bring it to your churches, your friends, your groups, businesses. I mean, like you said, it's all, every organization, they're ready to talk to. So thank you again so much. We have had a wonderful time, and we're so grateful that God has opened up all the doors that he has. So we wish you all a wonderful Thanksgiving, because we won't see you until after that, and we'll see you in December. God bless.